What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are ya? What's going on drummies? It's Arty here. Today we're doing a short little overview of Scottish drum major competition inspections. If you remember my previous overview of Scottish Games drum major competitions, you'll remember that I said that the inspection is usually the most stressful portion of a Scottish Games competition. Yes, like spinning the mace, doing the flourishing, doing the marching, that's the fun part. But the most stressful portion of any competition is the dress inspection. Now, dress inspections are actually the one portion of a drum major competition where a lot of people can lose a lot of points. A lot of times your dress inspection score can make or break your placing in either the finals or even your overall score. In this video, I'm not going to go over the entire rules of how to wear the uniform. That's something that you can probably look on the internet or read the RSPBA handbook. Now, depending on which pipe band organization you're with, be it WSPBA, EUSPBA, or any other international pipe band organization, they all take after the RSPBA handbook. So, I'm going to place a link in the description below of the RSPBA handbook's guidelines for dress inspection. In this video, I'm going to go over the pre-inspection, getting ready for actual inspection. Now, of course, you all know with the whole thing of, lint rolling everything, lint rolling your kilt, lint rolling your jacket, lint rolling your hat, lint rolling anything that's fabric. If you wear a black uniform or a dark uniform, like most drum majors will wear an argyle jacket like this, and a lot of times it's going to be black. You know that lint is going to be a major factor. So a lot of times your best friend is going to be a lint roller. In this video, I'm going to go through, as a person that is helping out another fellow drum major, I'm going to show you what I'm looking for. I'm going to be pretty much describing like what I'm looking for, how I'm fixing it. And in this video, my good friend Charles Brown is going to go through my uniform and actually go through a pre-inspection and what the judge actually would look for docking points, because like I said, any type of fault on your uniform is going to make or break your score. So he's going to go through he's going to go through what actually will get you a penalty in a game, and he'll show you how to fix it. So if you're interested in finding out how to actually get ready for a games competition, keep on watching. Okay, so here's Drum Major Charles Brown all dressed and ready to go for competition. If you don't have anyone to help you get dressed, you can always ask a fellow drum major to help you out with your uniform. A lot of times it's best to get a second set of eyes to look over your uniform because it's easy to miss little details. First, I like to start off with a general scan from head to toe. Looking at the uniform, I might pick up little asymmetries and misalignments on the uniform. As you can see, I have spotted some lint on his jacket. As I mentioned, the lint roller is your best friend. So I'm going to do another scan again and lint roll every part I see lint. So now I'm moving down to the kilt and the sporran. With inspections, many drum majors lose points from the waist down, because this is where a lot of elements need to be aligned to a gig line. So here I'm using my hand to measure the appropriate height of his sporran. According to the RSPBA handbook, the top of your sporran should be 1 hand width from the bottom button of the waistcoat. Now everyone has a different sized hand, so the hand measurement is merely an estimate. Many judges may ask you to place your hand above your sporran to see if you made the correct measurement. On a side note, if you are wearing a waistcoat with your daywear jacket, the measurement will be between the top of the sporran and the bottom button of the waistcoat. If you are not wearing a waistcoat, you would most likely be wearing a kilt belt. In that case, the measurement will be taken from the top of the sporran and the bottom of the belt buckle. So now I'm moving down to the drum major's hose and shoes, making sure everything is even. As you can see, I'm using my fingers to make sure the distance between the tops of his hose or socks and his kneecap are exactly a width of 2 fingers apart. Again, like the hand rule with the sporran, this is an estimate. Many times the hose tops can affect your score, so I'm going to make sure his hose tops are even all the way around. Again, the lint roller is your best friend. As you can see, Drum Major Brown is wearing dark colored socks, so lint will be easily visible. Also, most drum major competitions are held in grass, so you want to make sure the laces on your ghillie brogues don't pick up any foreign matter.
So very carefully, I'm going to ask Drum Major Brown to turn around so I can do the exact same thing to the back of his uniform. Here I'm checking the tails of his Glengarry, making sure the tails don't have any creases in them. You want to make sure you take an iron to them prior to going to the games. Again, I'm going over with a lint roller, making sure the back of his jacket is free of any dirt or lint. Because competitions are held outside, mostly during spring and summer seasons, it's very easy for your uniform to pick up plant particles or pollen blown from the wind. Coming down to the back of his hose, I'm making sure all the lines are straight, as well as making sure the folds of his hose are even. Here I noticed one of the crisscrosses of his ghillie brogue laces on his left foot was shifted over more compared to his right foot. I want to make sure it's in line with his Achilles tendon, or at the very least it's even or matches the crisscross on his right foot. Again, one final check from behind. Now I'll have Drum Major Brown turn around for one final look over. Now just making sure the apron of his kilt hangs flat in front of his body and his sporran is centered on the kilt. Turning to the side, I'm making sure the lines of his tartan are lined up straight. If your kilt is properly fitted and high quality, it shouldn't have any misalignments. Finally, the breath test. Many judges will breathe hot air on the head of your mace to make sure there are no fingerprints. Finally, if I feel he looks inspection ready, he is good to go. Just make sure you don't do any big drill movements before inspection. Once you have your uniform all set, you want to prevent any parts of your uniform, such as your sporran or hose, from shifting out of alignment.
Alright, so during this section, this is what we would call uniform inspection. So I'm going to point out what would be considered a fault I'm going to point out things that would be considered a fault or rule violation in an RSPBA, EUSPBA, and a WUSPBA competition. So these particular faults could actually cost you a competition. So Artemis McKayan is a professional drum major. He competes in the professional category in the WUSPBA competition. So I'm going to go over head to toe some things that you want to look for if you want to compete as a Scottish or Celtic Irish drum major in the Scottish Games. So first, we're going to look from head to toe. We're going to take out all the fine details. Most drum majors, as Artemis has discussed with you previously, lose points from the waist down. They also are going to lose points in what we call the center line. So right off the bat, I'm looking at Artemis' center line, and we're going to adjust this, but his tie is off center. I can see his button. That would be 1 point off. It's a rule violation. The drum major, we're going to adjust this tie so that it covers, and now it covers down. As you can see, that would now make him center. The other thing is you can look at, we'll get to the hose. So also any lint or dust that you have on the uniform, those will be counted against you as a rule violation. So I'm going to wand him off now as a means to clean him up, so it kind of looks as an inspection, but also as a way to help a fellow drum major. You never, though, when you're in competition, want somebody who you do not know to adjust your uniform, because that can also result in additional faults. So as a rule of thumb, you want to bring somebody with you called a dresser, somebody that you trust, somebody that has read the RSPBA drum major uniform manual, that is well versed in what it takes to have you get a perfect score in wearing the Celtic or Scottish drum major uniform. So you see with Glengarry, what they normally check, it should be 2 fingers, and it should also be tilted with the cap badge tilted slightly toward the right. Drum Major McKine has done that well. There is what we call a foreign matter on the Glengarry that would result in a uniform fall. Drum Major, turn to the right, please. Now, something else that you want to look for in the uniform inspection is this jacket. Now, if your jacket is not clean and pressed, if it has any wrinkles in it, that can result in a uniform fault. Also, we have foreign matter. We're going to look at the tails of the Glengarry. If the tails of the Glengarry are frayed in any way, the fraying of the Glengarry can result in a uniform fault. As you can see, the drum major uniform in the Celtic games is quite intricate. So you want to make sure that you take quite a bit of preparation the night prior. You also don't want to don your jacket, which an Argyle jacket is what we wear in a vest. You do not want to don that until you are moving into inspection for the day of the games. So we recommend that you have 2 uniforms to wear, one for mass bands and then another for competition if you can afford it. If you cannot afford it, then you need somebody to be there to dress your uniform to make sure that it's prepared before you see the judges in inspection. Drum Major, make one more quarter turn to your right. Now we can look at the pleats of the uniform. The pleats also have foreign matter on it. I'm going to go ahead and wand them down. You want to make sure that the pleats have no wrinkles in it. You never want to sit in your uniform when you're traveling to the games. You want to put your kilt on prior to inspection. Make sure that it's free from any foreign material. You want to make sure that the pleats on the kilt are ironed down, they're pressed, and that they're free from wrinkles once again. Drum Major behind, if you can turn again to your right, quarter turn. You'll notice that drum majors typically try not to move very much before inspection. This is done as a means to prevent the uniform from being misaligned. So now we're going to talk about alignment. Drum Major behind, turn and face me, and then do one more quarter turn. We're going to look now specifically at alignment, and this is where most drum majors lose points. Before I get there, the buttons on the uniform, as you notice he has 1 button that's unfastened. You never button 2 buttons. The rule is when you have 2 buttons, it'll be always and never. Once again, that's always and never. If you have 3 buttons, which you would never see in a Celtic uniform, it's always, sometimes, never. So we have 2 buttons, it'll be always and never. Drum Major McKine, will you open your jacket to reveal the vest, please? Now, the vest of the uniform, once again, has foreign matter. We'll go ahead and wand that off. Judge won't normally see that, but if he does, this can result in a uniform fault. As you can see, all the buttons are aligned and they're facing one way. If your buttons at all are misaligned, this can result in a uniform fault. They are perfectly centered from the peak of the Glengarry straight down the center of his nose, coming down from the tie, all the way down the buttons, and then there's a center line on the kilt, which you should be able to see. This is a dark colored pattern, but if I go down here, the pattern is right here. You can see the center line of the kilt goes up and it should meet this here. And I can see the kilt is twisted a little bit, so what I want to do is give it just a small twist. All right. Then I'm going to tuck it down. Let's shift this over. We're still not centered a little bit, so Drum Major McKine, I'll grab your mace. Shift your kilt for me to your left. Keep going. Hold it there. Look straight down. See the kilt you're sitting on here. This is just sitting line off a little bit. There we go. Perfect. The center line being the most important part of the uniform, you want to ensure that it's always spot on. You can go ahead and close your jacket. Another point where drum majors lose a ton of points is this kilt pin. Be very, very careful when you apply the kilt pin. Now, if you're in a pipe band, which Drum Major McKyon is a member of a pipe band, you want to ensure, number one, that the kilt pin does not damage your kilt. Secondly, you want to ensure that your kilt pin is being worn uniformly amongst all members of the pipe band. Thirdly, you want to check the RSPBA manual, the uniform manual, and follow the directions for measuring your kilt and kilt pin and applying it to match up exactly as it is specified. There is an actual measurement. I'm not going to go over that now. I'd rather you read it so that I do not misstate it, but it's an actual measurement that must be followed. You can lose a ton of points here if it is not applied correctly.
Question for you.
Yes,
Is the kilt pin mandatory?
the kilt pin is an optional piece of the uniform.
So would you recommend that if you don't know how to wear it, just don't bother wearing it at all?
If you do not know how, I would recommend not wearing a kilt pin if you're going to a drum major competition. The general rule of thumb is not to wear any piece of the uniform that's going to be extra that can cost you a uniform fault. You want to kind of keep your uniform as basic as possible. This will ensure that you can get past inspection with as few faults as possible, right? So the other things, so things like baldricks, sashes, skin doos, all these various additional parts of the uniform, you want to reserve that for outside of the Scottish games and competitions. This way, you're not subject to uniform faults or, well, of course, penalties, but also you don't want people who are longtime fans of the Scottish games to reprimand you for not wearing a uniform piece appropriate or incorrectly. And you want to wear your uniform completely as well. This is a standard drum major uniform, just like I'm wearing as well, that you'll see at the Scottish games. There are variants, but when you follow the variants, there's a rule for every style of the Scottish Celtic drum major uniform. Let's move on down to the hose. So the hoses right here are very important that, number one, that they're level. So what do I mean by level? That means that the hose tops, that's this piece here, they should be the same all the way around. They should be free from lint or dust. And the flashes here, the flashes need to be centered. As you can see, I'll need to shift these over. Let me double check. Always tell right off the bat. But I can see here, there's a center line. This center line lines up with the center of the shoe. It goes all the way up, and the center is here. So I need to shift the hose flashes slightly over so that they meet regulation and specs. I also noticed that the flashes are twisted a bit, so I want to adjust that. And I also want to bring them just a little bit closer together. And I want to repeat that process on the opposite side. The ghillie brogues should be clean, free from dust. They should be shine. Now, however, when you go to the games, most of them will have a dirt field, a dirt path. Your ghillies will get covered in dirt. All participants will. Depending on the judge, you may or may not get a uniform fault based on that. The judge can pretty much tell if your shoes have been worked over very, very well or not. I wouldn't make a big deal about that. However, I would bring a shoe shine kit to brush them off prior to competition. I also would advise of you that you bring a second pair of ghillie brogues and change into them after mass bands, if you have a morning mass band. Or bring an extra pair of shoes to wear as you travel into the games, and then before uniform inspection, change out into a fresh pair of ghillie brogues. This way, you have the best chance of getting a perfect uniform inspection. So now as we move into taking a closer look at his ghillie brogues here, what we want to look at is how the ghillie brogues are tied.
these are a very short tie of the ghillie brogues. So basically how you tie the ghillie brogues is what is specified in the uniform manual. You want to tie them at the base. You will wrap them 3 times around. They come back around the base of the shoe. You knot them 1 time around, you bring them in front of you, and then you tie them in a knot and then a bow. You want the ghillie brogue, or what you say like the tassel, should be basically at the base of the shoe, and then the loop should be even with it. So if I may I untie your ghillie? So to give you a quick example of how a ghillie brogue should be tied at regulation, in Scotland at the Scottish Games, and everybody ties them different. Face your shoe toward me. Let's see, back up just a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to do 1 standard knot. I like to do 1 standard knot, our loop right here. We'll call it knot, just tie it here. And then I like to go 1, 2, 3. 3 wraps of the laces. And then I stand those up. I go once behind the shoe. I'll do 1 twist. I come back around to the front. I tie 1 more knot. And I try to keep them close together. There is a specification. I believe that is about 1 inch distance, and you should measure them and keep them centered. Then from here, just like regular shoes, I tie a knot. Now this part is very important, and I'm gonna back out of this. I need to ensure that my tassels are even. I'm gonna tie a small loop. I'm gonna bring that around and close it. Now what I'm trying to do is bring my tassels off of the ground ever so slightly before closing my knot with a double knot. And this is how you tie ghillie brogues. It has been said that the loop and the tassel should be even, and most drum majors have accomplished this. This is still a work in progress for me. But your goal should be to get the loop and the tassel to be completely even, okay? Hose tops all the way around should be completely even. So turn around for me, Mr. Drum Major McKayan. So front to front, these look pretty good. Turn all the way around. So we still have some foreign material here. We'll go ahead and brush that off of Drum Major. You really want to get somebody trusted to work out your gills, sorry, not your gills, to work out your hose tops. From the knee bone, it should be 2 fingers distance. Scoot up a little bit, forward this way. 2 fingers distance from the shin bone will be the measurement that they should be. The kilt should fall to the halfway mark of the knee. It shouldn't be above the knee. It shouldn't be below the knee. It should be right at the half mark of the knee to be worn properly. And then I'm gonna pass this over to Drum Major McKayan to finish off uniform inspection. Cheers, Sid.
Right, so that's pretty much the general gist of uniform inspection. Like Drum Major Charles Brown said, you want to get someone who is trusted to be able to look over your uniform, and also every now and then you can also ask a fellow competitor to look over your uniform. A lot of drum majors, especially in most competitions, are happy to give you a once over. So that covers mostly the brief overview of dress inspection for a Scottish game. So if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought about this video. Go ahead and go over to Charles Brown and subscribe to his channel. I'll place the link to his channel in the description below. Until next time, guys, keep marching, keep flourishing. I'll catch you guys later. You really want to get somebody trusted